So as Unrivaled enters the playoffs, the injury list is vast. But how will this affect the WNBA season? So, in its inaugural season, Unrivaled has kicked off and is coming to its end in the final weeks, but the injury list has stacked up, and no other team has felt it more than the Laces BC. Jackie Young suffered an injury before the start of the season, Alyssa Thomas got injured early on in the season, Kate Martin got injured, and then they brought in a relief player who was awesome, by the way, B'Nai Hamilton, who had a big injury last season on the Liberty and then got injured again. Let's also mention Marina Mabrey in there, who actually has been out the entire season up until the last game. And there are more on other teams, but Unrivaled has been pretty quiet about explaining most of these injuries. Outside of Marina Mabrey's calf injury, they don't really go into detail about the injuries. They've actually canceled games due to player welfare and making sure that all the players are healthy. And here's the thing about Unrivaled is that it was developed as an off-season league for the WNBA as a developmental league. And the WNBA off-season is 8 months long. So players very, very often go overseas. They'll go to Athletes Unlimited. So it's not as if they wouldn't be playing anyway, but I think that the way that Unrivaled does really value the health of their players, it does say something, but I don't think that they anticipated the fast-paced 3v3 format to get as many injuries as it did. However, there have been no reports of season-ending injuries, and if you look over at other leagues like Athletes Unlimited, Jordan Horston tore her ACL pretty quickly. Nika Mule went overseas, also very quickly, tore her ACL, which are both season-ending injuries, sadly both for the Seattle Storm. As Unrivaled does really take into account the facilities, the training, and the aftercare for all the players, ice baths, saunas, massages, personal trainers, etc. So yes, there definitely has been a lot of injuries, as we all probably know at this point, but the injuries, what I'm wondering is, especially with the lack of detail about what they are and how long these players are out, I'm wondering if they're more taking precaution and taking a longer time to recover from these injuries. Like Kate Martin, for instance, when she did get injured with her knee issue, she did play through a few games, but I'm pretty sure that Natalie Nakase from the Golden State Valkyries, the new coach of the Golden State Valkyries, got on the horn and told Kate Martin, listen, you are the face of our franchise right now. Do not F this up. And it really does look like Kate Martin is out for the season, as shown by some social media posts between her and Kayla McBride, where Kayla McBride is saying how she already misses her. So it doesn't seem like Kate Martin is going to be coming back. And Kate Martin was spotted back home at games. She's not limping around. She is walking around like a regular person. So it doesn't seem like her injury is very extensive. And a lot of these players would probably be playing through their injury if it was the W season. Give Alyssa Thomas, for example. She's pretty tough. If she were injured, she probably would be playing through the injury. But in her return back in Unrivaled, she was on a minutes restriction. And one thing that Unrivaled has been totally open and clear about is the communication between the players and coaches and staff of the WNBA. As when Sabrina Ionescu was out and the more recent B'Nai Hamilton was out, the New York Liberty actually released their own presser about why. And regarding the B'Nai Hamilton injury, they said, the New York Liberty are in communication with Unrivaled, B'Naia, and her team. We are gathering information and determining next steps with our medical staff. Further updates will be provided when available. And as far as the Sabrina Ionescu quote-unquote quitting Unrivaled, I think that Sabrina Ionescu was added at the very last minute to the Unrivaled roster. And, I think that maybe Unrivaled was waiting to see if Caitlin Clark would commit. And when she did not commit, after that, Sabrina Ionescu was added. But Sabrina Ionescu is one of the players of the WNBA that has a lot of movement going on outside of the court. And she took some time off after she played her first few games where she was over in Europe supporting some Euro Cup games for the NBA. She also ended up having a commitment to Fashion Week. And, Sabrina Ionescu has a very, very, very popular shoe. And having a shoe does kind of commit you to fashion-oriented events. And right now, she has a whole tour going on over in, I think it's Japan, for her shoe release, which I'm sure was already talked about with Unrivaled, as she is a big name and would bring some eyes to the league. And a lot of people are thinking she got paid so much for playing like half a season. But the thing is it's a supply-demand thing with Sabrina Ionescu, and like a brand recognition thing that would bring, again, I hate to repeat myself, but bring more eyes to the league. So I don't know for sure. I wasn't in the rooms. I wasn't around during the contract negotiations, but I can only assume that all of these dates that she already had set up with prior commitment to the Unrivaled start were discussed and okayed by the Unrivaled League. And I'm not sure if you are aware about the way that the Chinese pay their players overseas, but if you don't play, there is no pay. And in Unrivaled, if there is an injury, even like starting, the players are taken out and they are still getting paid. So there is something to say for that. And again, I do want to stress that Unrivaled is a developmental league, which means in the off season, which means they're developing their game and they are getting like game ready, which is a lot different to practicing in a lab. And again, if these players were not in Unrivaled, a lot of them would be playing overseas or in Athletes Unlimited. And if they weren't playing in Athletes Unlimited, they'd be doing runs and they'd be training. So there's always, always, always going to be the risk of injury. The thing that does give me pause about Unrivaled, and I'm sure this is on their minds too, as when you have an inaugural season, things come up and you see what you need to work on, is that the fast pace of Unrivaled, the quickness, the running up and down the court, that does create more of a strain on their bodies than they're probably used to. But when you look at it, when you really look at it, there haven't been any season-ending injuries as of yet, knock on wood, and the players do seem to be getting very well taken care of, as everyone in Unrivaled has mentioned this over and over. And it could be that the players are staying out longer than they normally would, so it does not affect their W season. And just judging by what it looks like visually, nobody has been limping around, nobody has been in a cast. I think that there is a high probability that they just are erring on the side of caution so that they could be a 100% around the time that April comes. So I have to say, I'm not really mad at this league. Now, is it the most entertaining thing I've ever watched in my life? No, not exactly. And I do understand a lot of people's hesitation to watch. There's a lot of breaking. I think that it's getting better. I think that it's a different format to get used to, way quicker, way faster pace, as I already mentioned. I mean, these players are getting to play amongst some of the best players against one another to get some practice, maybe for the W season. There is a 2-month break in between the time that Unrivaled ends and the time that the W season starts. But going back to the developmental league aspect of it, again, I'm not mad at it as long as it continues to stay free from season-ending injuries.